You know, I've got a funny feeling I'm going to get very wet this morning. You know, one of the best bits about coming out on walks is bumping into people you've never met before and chatting to them about various things and their love for the outdoors. I've had a great time this morning chatting to a lady and a gentleman. I've learnt so much. God, getting out and about is just the best. And of course, because I have all my waterproofs on, it isn't raining, because that's the law. Now, if I take my waterproofs off, it will chuck it down. So I'll keep them on for now. And when it's not looking, I'll change out of them, because if it sees you, the weather, it'll do its worst. Well, I suppose because this is a photography related channel, I should talk about the camera and what I'm doing today. Well, I've got a Nikon F55, the smallest, cheapest, lightest, most plasticky Nikon ever. And I've got a 28-100 small, cheap, plastic, awful zoom lens, which is actually quite good in terms of quality. Ooh, river. And I've got it loaded with Ilford Delta 3200. 3200! So no problems with shutter speeds, etc. Because I just want to impart a bit of a gritty look to the images today. I'll probably regret it later when it's bright and sunny, but yeah, atmosphere. Now, the first thing I want to talk about this morning is one of my favourite topics, and that's stuff that works. About 20 years ago, a friend and I were going to set up a website called stuffthatworks.com, and we were going to fill it full of items and reviews of anything. Now, cameras, cars, battery chargers, shoes, clothing, whatever, but just stuff that works. Now, I'm getting a bit obsessed with stuff that just works, and equally obsessed with stuff that doesn't work, like GoPro. Now, I would class, for me, stuff that works as anything which just gets the job done in such an easy way without giving me any hassle that I almost forget it's there. I'm going to class Apple in there. Now, that's quite controversial because some people hate Apple. I don't hate Apple. I've worked in IT for 40 years. I appreciate an ecosystem where everything talks to everything and there are gradual incremental improvements. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I don't think it's expensive. You get twice as long out of it as a typical Intel Windows and whatever Samsung. For me, you may disagree, but it works for me. Other things that just work are things like these old Nikon SLR film cameras. They just get on with it. You press the button, they take a perfect exposure. It's properly focused. They never jam up. They just work. Items of clothing like, you know, my Rab jacket, 8 years old, pretty tatty, keeps the rain out. The zips don't get snagged. Equally, stuff that plays up, like Mr. GoPro, I'm looking at you. It does the job most of the time. And then the bugginess of it, the firmware, the batteries, drive me nuts. I will happily sacrifice features for reliability every time. I want it to work first and foremost. I have a Japanese car these days because they just work. I had Japanese motorbikes, they just worked. You know, they may not be the most stylish or fast or the best handling, but they get the job done. They will always get me there. They never break down. And if they do, they're cheap to fix. So I have an obsession with items which do the job for me. And if I can find them, I'll stick with them and I'll buy them again and again. And it ain't all about features and new technology. I know they're a bit of a cliche, but I just love forest paths. Not as much as I love deep, spooky forests though. OMG, this is amazing. But even with the Delta 3200, you're talking a 30th of a second at f4.5 wide open, so methinks a bit shaky. Have I mentioned how much I like being out in the countryside? Okay, we're off up there, Moel Siabod. Fantastic mountain, shrouded in, well, it's not mist, but it's chucking it down up there. And thankfully, I've left my waterproofs on. I did pretend to take them off, took myself away underneath a tree, and the rain came out, but I'm still ready for it. Now, the plan was to head up this grade 1 scramble ridge here, up to the top of Moel Siabod, which is in the clouds. But it is a scramble, and it is raining, and I'm on my own. So I'm not actually going to go up that way, because safety first. I'm going to go around the back of the ridge and come up the other way, which is a lot safer, because I want to keep enjoying doing this for years and not break my ankle or worse. Right, the next topic on my list of things to talk about is things being enough, good enough. Now, how can I explain this? Right, okay, you grow up, you haven't got a car or a motorbike. You get your first car or motorbike and it's rubbish, but it takes you places. I started off with a little 50cc moped, and within weeks I was travelling up to 250 miles in a day exploring, and no more than 40 miles an hour. I went everywhere. Now, as I improved my motorbikes, I did the same journeys, faster, more comfortably, but the same journeys. Were they more enjoyable? I thought so at the time, but looking back, those early journeys were the best. Same with photography. I started 40 years ago with a Nikon SLR, still got it, still got the same model, same lens, etc. And it allowed me to take high resolution for the day photographs of anywhere I went on the motorbike. So I was going out having a blast. Now, over the years, I got better film cameras, bigger formats. I went to the same places. I took better photos, but not because of the technology, because I improved my photographic skills. Now, fast forward even further, we've got digital. Fantastic, we've got the iPhones. All they're delivering, all these increments, are tiny in comparison to that first step you took. Before I had a car or a motorbike, I couldn't go very far. As soon as I got one, the most basic one, I could go almost anywhere. Camera, I was taking pictures of everything I pleased, just as I am now. I could get up these hills even easier and take pictures. I've got those pictures. Everything's got quicker, it's got easier, it's got more convenient. Some would say cheaper with digital, not quite sure about that personally. But it's nothing like that first step you took. The first step, the first mountain you walked up, everything else after that is a tiny increment. So let's not get too hung up on equipment and technology. The basics are there for everyone to enjoy, and we should be making the most of them. Even on limited budgets, if you have limited time, you can still experience 90+% of what somebody can with the best car, the best motorbike, the best camera, just by getting out with it. Well, magnificent views there on the way up, top of Moel Siabod now, in a fantastic shelter. I mean, this is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's blowing a gale out there and it's a bit wet, but I'm so toasty in here, apart from my wet feet. I'm going to have a bit of a snack, watching the clouds billowing over, etc., etc., getting the best angles. Glad I've used Delta 3200. I'm loving the, well, I can't see the grit and grain, but I can imagine it. I can pre-conceive, pre-visualise, if you like, what it's going to look like, and it's going to look great. Shot about half a roll, got another roll with me. Got some other film if I want to, but I think I'll stick with the Delta 3200 even if it clears. And yeah, thanks for putting up with me so far. Now I've gone and put the red filter onto the camera now because I've got a bit more sky to play with, a bit more blue in there. So that's going to pump up the contrast and yeah, make it even grainier probably, but it's so cold up here. I'm going to have to get off the top and get down for some of those lower views. I just realised I've gone the whole walk so far without saying fantastic once, so fantastic! Well, I've finished the first roll of Delta 3200 and I put another roll in, but I've gone for the yellow filter for this roll because I've got a lot of dramatic shots now with that punchy red filter, and on the way back it's more sort of woodland, forest, trees, lakes, and I don't want that harsh contrast down there. I want it a bit softer and more gentle. So yeah, an extra 2 stops as well, which is nice for when I'm hand holding later on. Let's see how this one goes. Ah, woods. I love woods. Woods are great. I'm used to woodland. Similar sort of, well, no, slightly more natural woodland than I'm used to where I live. And shooting with a, whoa, ah, ooh, ah. Lovely. Shooting with a 35mm camera handheld is not really me in the woods, but fast film. Sun's just come out. Yeah, I got a feeling I'm going to get something. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about on this magnificent walk is all about emotional responses to photographs. Now, I believe that a photograph should create an emotional response in the viewer, whether that's shock, horror, or beauty, or a calm feeling. It should give you something. You should look at it and feel something. Nothing worse than looking at a photograph and going, yeah, it's nice that, isn't it? Yeah. Instantly forgettable. It's the same with music. Music should make you feel a certain way. It should possibly make you tingle down your spine, give you goosebumps, or it may send you off into another place. It gives you that emotional connection. Now, when I do photography, And the reason I don't do a lot of high definition, super high resolution, or even colour photography is because I don't really get the same emotional responses to those images, like the sunsets and the sunrises, or the super high definition, black and white, crisp, clean, noise free. They're nice, don't get me wrong, and in certain situations they can have an impact on me. But I prefer something which has a more raw, textured feel to it, something which feels like I'm there, something which feels like it's more than a two-dimensional image. It's got character, it has got emotion, it's got feeling, it's got drama, or it's got a sense of melancholy. And the reason I'm shooting with Delta 3200 today is because in the right conditions, and I hope these are the right conditions, I think they are, it can give me that feeling when I look back at the images. They have something about them, a character, which is difficult to objectively state, but I feel something when I look at those images, which is why I use that film, and which is why I use film in general, because I just have a better emotional connection with those images. So for me, beautiful pictures and highly technical and super sharp lenses, fine. They don't do anything for me, typically. I need something which is going to connect with me at a much more sort of primeval level, a much more basic level, without considering the camera, the technology. I want something that moves me. Well, as I was walking along, a couple of friendly dogs came running up to me, and a farmer came walking along, and she said, in the 40 years she's been walking this path, she's never come across another person before, and I'm the first one ever she's bumped into on this route. So I'm honoured. But it does give you an idea of how remote some of these places are. And the nice thing about this particular route is towards the end we have the fantastic Dolwyddelyn Castle, and we're going to pass close by it on the way back to the car. Right, that's me all done for the day. Fantastic walk. Thanks for coming along as ever, and I'll see you again on the next one.